Halloween night. A small American town. 15 years ago.
Michael?
Halloween.
I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil. I think he'll come back.
Exploring uncharted territory.
Totally charted.
Just talk.
Sure. The only reason she babysits is to have
Halloween.
Okay, Linda.
Come on out. Halloween. The night he came home.
The late 70s Babysitter Murderer was and still is one of the major faces of the slasher and horror genre as a whole. Horror star John Carpenter, who would later be known to direct movies such as The Thing and They Live, originally titled the film The Babysitter Murders, but after an idea to base it around a holiday, they changed the name to just Halloween. The team behind this independent project were shooting for the stars. Producer Irwin Yablans said about the film, "I was thinking what would make sense in the horror genre, and what I wanted to do was make a picture that had the same impact as The Exorcist, and make an impact." They definitely did. Carpenter became the jack of all trades when it came to the production of this movie. He wrote the entire script in less than 2 weeks and scored it in an outstanding 3 days. The intro sequence debuts what will soon be known as one of horror's most iconic theme songs, which Carpenter wrote inspired off of a drumming technique he used to do as a child. In the first shot of this movie, which ironically was the last shot they filmed, the setting is Haddonfield, Illinois on Halloween night of 1963. Haddonfield's look and feel was inspired off Haddonfield, New Jersey, which Carpenter grew up in, and even though it says it takes place in Illinois, it was actually filmed in South Pasadena, California. This one-take first-person shot shows a young Michael Myers as he creepily trots his little 6-year-old feet outside of his house and creepily watches his sister Judith Myers wrestle with her boyfriend Steve Haley. This whole sequence was shot with a Panaglide camera rig, which was a competitor to the popular Steadicam made by the Tiffin Company at the time. Young Michael then goes around through the back door, similar to how Steve was planning to do tonight, but unlike Steve, young Michael grabs a knife that looks to be bigger than him and makes his way into the living room. He is stopped by Steve, rushing out of the door, probably after he realized he was getting no treats this Halloween, but Michael is able to quickly sneak his way up those steps, where he puts on a clown mask and starts to his sister's bedroom. And let's not need to mention without knocking, because this asshole just barges in while she's fucking topless. Michael then uses his knife to stab his sister a bunch, making her scream louder than Steve probably ever could, fucking Steve, and just walks his ass out the front door and meets his parents. We then cut to Smiths Grove, Illinois, the night before the 14th anniversary of the murder. We're in a car with Michael's psychiatrist, Dr. Samuel Loomis, and a colleague, Marion Chambers. They came to the sanitarium to transport him to court. but after they spotted some spooky, scary sheet ghosts walking around outside of the building, they knew that something was wrong. Loomis gets out of the car to open up the gate, leaving Marion in the car alone. A still-gowned Michael then becomes a gymnast and pounces onto the car and tries to rip her out of it by her hair. Ouch. But she fights him off for a little until she can rip herself free from his grasp. And after a moment of safety, Michael bashes open the window, scaring her to flee the vehicle, in which Michael hops in GTA style and whips off into the rainy night. It's now Halloween night in Haddonfield, and we see a young Laurie Strode leaving her house for school. Laurie is played by Jamie Lee Curtis in what is surprisingly her debut movie. Her performance would get her cast in countless horror films after this and give her the original title of Scream Queen, and have her be known as one of the most famous faces in history. Laurie Strode's name allegedly was also the name of one of Carpenter's old girlfriends, but nobody knows for certain though. She is then approached by Tommy Doyle, the kid Laurie babysits. Laurie plans to babysit him later tonight too for Halloween, but first she has to drop off a key her dad gave her at the spooky abandoned Myers house, which that crazy son of a bitch plans to sell. Tommy is freaked out over the house, and rightfully so, as we cut inside and see a moving shadow looming eerily at the window. But as soon as Tommy leaves, he brings out the extrovert in him and watches as Laurie walks off to school. In class, Laurie looks out the window and sees something in what becomes one of the most famous scenes in this movie, and referenced by several movies to come. A tall, looming man in a white blank mask standing outside by a car. Carpenter's haunting music only makes this scene even more terrifying. Somehow, though, after that scary-ass encounter, she's able to give a detailed answer to the teacher, which bonus points for multitasking. But when she looks back, her old friend is gone. Aww. Tommy is at school and is having a bit of a bully problem. They tell him that the boogeyman is coming to get him because he went to the Myers house. It makes him fall and break his pumpkin, but one of those kids gets the scare he deserves when Michael turns a corner and grabs one by the arms, but peacefully lets him go. He steps into the stolen car while following Tommy and speeds off away. We cut to Loomis by a payphone, explaining how Michael must have gone to Haddonfield because just trust me, bro, until he notices a crashed mechanic's car in the field. When he goes to investigate, he also finds torn robes and gowns from the sanitarium and a loose matchbox, but just barely misses the body lying there in the grass right next to him. Perhaps the work of Myers. After school, Laurie meets up with her friends Linda Vanderklok and Annie Brackett, who also babysits tonight only 3 houses down from Laurie. They smoke a cigarette which is unhealthy and bad! Yeah. But then all those toxic fumes cause Laurie to turn around and see that same car from outside slowly driving by them. But after Annie makes a smart-ass comment,
Speed kills!
"Yeah, well so does nicotine, you dumb." Mikey boy slows down to a halt in offended shock. But then he realizes it's not worth it and continues away. Linda plans on bringing her boyfriend Bob over to Annie's house so they can wrestle while the parents are gone. And Annie wants to pick up her boyfriend Paul as well, but Laurie stays single. Poor Laurie. In another iconic scene after Linda heads home, Laurie and Annie see the man with a plan and a mask standing behind a hedge in a terrifying moment that will forever imprint Carpenter's mastery of the creepy tactic. This is also the first time we get to see Michael's mask in all its glory. That horrifying thing wasn't even made by any expert makeup designers or anything. The entire production of this movie was incredibly rushed, so the crew picked up a $2 Captain Kirk mask from Star Trek, painted it white, and used it to make one of the most memorable horror masks of all time. Another proposed design was a replica mask of the clown character Weary Willie. As the girls grow closer, Michael gets a little shy again and fades into the hedge. Annie tries to confront him in disbelief, but he's nowhere to be found. Laurie then runs into Annie's dad, Deputy Brackett, resulting in him saying a very memorable quote.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
When Laurie gets home, she looks out the window to see the shape getting all playful and silly in the sheets left to dry. He horrifyingly stands there and just stares until Laurie backs up and slams the window. Her phone then rings, but there's no answer, and after a standard off and back on solution, it fixes everything, she realizes it's just Annie, who tells her she's on her way to pick her up at 6:30 to go to their babysitting jobs. Afterwards, our friend Loomis and a cemetery owner walk through a graveyard looking for the grave of Judith Myers, but when they arrive, they find the motherfucking tombstone missing?
Why do they do it? Goddamn kids.
Oh, Mr. Cemetery Owner, I don't see how a group of teens could carry a huge-ass stone gravestone up, out of the ground, and out of the cemetery, but whatever you want to believe, sir. But Loomis got a big old brain and connects the dots.
He came home.
Back in Haddonfield, Lori and Annie smoke some green, Camp Crystal Lake style, in the car on the way to the job. Can't quit the drugs, can you, Anne? Following close behind them, though, is Michael, pissed off he's not invited to the rotation. What I love about this scene is how Michael follows close behind them the entire time and the two girls don't even notice. Another thing they don't notice is the fucking police at the store right in front of them investigating a hardware store. Even worse, it's her dad. They waft the smoke away and try to act like they aren't higher than the star on a Christmas tree, which Lori's expression is not working at all. But when Loomis comes around the corner and goes to talk to Sheriff Brackett, Michael whips around the corner right fucking behind him. A lot of clueless people this Halloween. Quick flash, it's nighttime, baby. Michael is following Annie and Lori to the houses they are scheduled to babysit tonight. He steps out of the car and watches Annie walk into the house behind a tree, so eager to ask for her number, but no avail. Loomis and Brackett then arrive to the spooky, scary Myers house. I mean, all that's in there is some darkness and a dead animal Michael was snacking on. Seems normal to me. They head upstairs and Loomis gets his entitled One Good Scare, and that sends him on a rant on how evil Myers really is. Later in the Doyle household, Lori viciously mocks Tommy's comic book collection, which all of a sudden sparks a question in Tommy's mind.
Lori, what's the boogeyman?
Down the street, Annie is babysitting a little girl named Lindsay, who is currently watching The Thing on TV, which would later be remade in 1982 by Carpenter himself. Tommy stands up from the TV and stands out at a window where he sees the boogeyman standing right outside of the house Annie's at. But when he tries to go get Lori's attention, he disappears. Tommy insists he knows what he saw, but Lori doesn't believe him whatsoever and tells him the boogeyman isn't real. Annie then takes Lindsay over to the Doyle's house so that she can pick up Paul and they wrestle, but as soon as she gets in the car, Michael appears in the back seat, strangles her, and then slits her throat for our first present-day on-screen kill. This movie has a very slow climb before the action really begins. Depending on the kind of viewer you are, that could either be super effective or super boring. I personally love when movies do that. Linda and her boyfriend Bob try to head over to the Wallace house after a fair wrestling match, but they find it completely empty. But for some fucking dumbass reason, they decide it's perfect time to get in and go upstairs and fuck. Afterwards, Bob heads downstairs to get a drink, but Michael pops out, lifts him up, and pins him against the wall with a kitchen knife. In another super memorable scene, Michael's actor Nick Castle does a super disturbing head tilt, which was improvised by Carpenter on the spot, just to see how it looks, and is now referenced in many other movies, Halloween and not. Michael comes back upstairs to Linda dressed as a sheet ghost with Bob's glasses. Linda fails a perception check and thinks it's just Bob playing around. I find how flirtatious Linda is being and Michael not showing a single reaction really suspenseful but oddly comical. Linda then goes to call Lori to ask where Annie is because they are just now remembering why they're there. Michael runs behind her and strangles her with the phone cord, which Lori listens to on the other line. After Lori also fails a perception check, she thinks it's a prank. Meanwhile, a wandering Loomis stumbles upon a stolen car and realizes that Myers really did come home, and now it's hunting time. Another person hunting is Lori, who is now going around looking for Annie and Linda, which now starts what a good friend of mine would call the final girl circuit. Investigating the house, Lori goes into the bedroom for another disturbing scene where Annie Brackett's body is laying on the bed, spread out before the stolen tombstone of Judith Myers. When Lori goes off to hide in the closet, she finds Bob just hanging around in there, which scares her off to look for somewhere else to hide. She tries the dumbwaiter, which Linda's body is stuffed inside. Michael appears in the dark and slashes her arm open, which causes her to fall over the stairway banister. She manages to escape and makes it out of the house, but lost the keys to the Doyle's house door when she falls down the stairs. Tommy lets her inside and Lori tells the kids to hide somewhere safe. Michael sneaks in through the window, but in an attempt to fight back, Lori stabs his ass in the neck with a sewing needle and he falls to the ground. Thinking he's dead, Lori stumbles up to find the kids, but oh shit, nope, he's still going. Lori sends the kids to the bathroom while she goes to lay in the bedroom closet. And another memorable scene, Michael punches through the door and rips open the shutters, peering in through the dancing clothes hangers. So she stabs him in the eye with a hanger and in the chest with his own fucking knife. Ouch. Lindsay and Tommy are tasked to go to the neighbors and call the police, which Loomis sees them run away and goes to investigate. Lori and Michael brawl upstairs, knocking him down and getting up, but then she knocks him down for one last hit. Michael then eerily sits up and slowly turns to Lori. She rips his mask off, but it's pretty unclear what his face looks like, but before we can get a clear look, he just puts it back on. Loomis barges in and shoots Michael 6 times in the chest, leaving him fall over the balcony. Thinking he's dead, him and Lori talk about him, but when Loomis goes to confirm the kill, he's disappeared. Halloween is one of my favorite movies of all time, even for it being so old. Production and filming only lasted 20 days, but yet they were able to make a man's name shine, and one of the most impactful franchises in horror history, Halloween.